Hello, I'm Rachel Jones and I welcome you all to Executive Corner Expert Talks. Today I'm with Wayne Paterson. Now Wayne is the CEO of Anteris. Anteris is a structural heart company creating the world's most durable heart valve. Here at Kalkine, we bring you industry leaders, successful business owners, market and equity advocates all under one roof to help you discover the insights of the stock market and help you understand how you can create multiple passive income streams. Welcome, Wayne, to Kalkine.
Good morning, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
Good to speak with you today. Now, such a fascinating company. Firstly, could you introduce Anteris to our audience and tell us about the powerful work that you are doing?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, look, we're very proud of Anteris in what's been achieved in the last several years. But Anteris, as you mentioned, is a company in a space known as a structural heart space. Predominantly, we treat a disease called aortic stenosis. This is quite a serious disease, affects folks from their mid-60s and beyond. And when this disease gets to the severe state, the mortality rate is about 50% after 2 years. There are several products to treat this particular condition, but the only way you can treat this condition is to actually go into the heart, take out or replace that aortic valve with a new one. There's no pharmacotherapy to treat this disease. And there are a couple of players with older products in the market. We've come at this with a completely different approach to that market, and we believe, as do the doctors we work with, that this is in fact a product that is very much needed right now for these younger patients who are starting off with this disease. When we've got some very unique and novel technologies that have been developed in Australia, and we're very proud that we probably have a technology here, an Australian designed and built technology that will be a global product, helping out thousands of patients around the world in the years ahead.
Sounds absolutely life-saving there, Wayne. And can you tell us about the recent progress achieved by Anteris?
Sure. So developing a medical product that goes into patients is obviously a long and arduous task, and certainly can be. I've spent most of my career globally in healthcare. The achievements, particularly in the last 12 months, have been significant. We have had a fantastic group of doctors working with us on our medical advisory board for the last several years. As we've transitioned from developing our ADAPT technology, which is where we started, into the world's first 3D aortic valve for replacement by a catheter. That's a world first. And getting that through the animal studies, of course, through all the design briefs that we have to go through and into humans, is quite an achievement. Now we are on the precipice, as we speak, of entering our first human studies for this catheter-based valve, and FDA approval of that study is imminent within the next quarter.
That's great news. Now, as the world continues to battle the coronavirus pandemic, how has this escalated next generation technologies in the healthcare sector, do you believe?
So I think, the healthcare space all over the world has clearly been moving during the pandemic, and observing from where I do, having spent my whole career in the global space, I've seen a lot of shift in investments, both in and out in the last several years. Of course, companies who make vaccines or the promise of vaccines or diagnostics are getting a lot of support, but not just those companies. In healthcare, there is a big shift towards digital healthcare, telemedicine, real hospital in the home kind of stuff that I see. And also I think I've seen movements of capital away from companies who may have been on the market for many, many years, developing healthcare products and not quite getting there, and moving into more interesting and very current companies that are developing things very quickly, such as Anteris. So the money's there, it's happening a lot. The obvious choices of vaccine companies are getting a lot of attention, but I think also this whole shift away from being in person, not only in the workplace, but certainly from a doctor point of view, is going to really go up in the next few years, and the digital health space is just booming right now.
So with that being said, do you believe the pandemic has been a help or a hindrance for healthcare funding?
I think it has generated a lot of funding simply because the demand and the need is there. Obviously, we have had hospitals, certainly here in the US, but of course everywhere, stretched to their breaking point with caseload. We thought we were coming through that, then the Delta variant started to come in, of course, and that created more problems. So I think necessity is the mother of invention, and because of that sheer volume drive on the hospital and on the whole healthcare system across the world, it's created new opportunities and new technologies. So I think it's been helpful in the fact that it's helped generate new ideas. And those ideas may have taken longer to come if we didn't have the pandemic. And I think a lot of them are good, and that's driven capital into these spaces to get those ideas to market as quickly as possible. There are obviously a lot of downsides to the pandemic, too numerous to mention, but certainly it's driving innovation and creativity, definitely in healthcare.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about product development now. When you are developing a product, what's one of the most important aspects that you have to keep in mind?
Well, in the healthcare space, it's hands down clinical superiority. You want to be altruistic to the point that if your product is going to be superior to what's available, help humanity if you like, then it's going to be profitable. And I think that's the way we look at it. My whole career, I've brought a lot of drugs to market globally. You always have that perspective. There is obviously shareholders and there is a profit basis behind all of this. But if your product's not clinically superior, if you're not going to move the needle in your given space, for us, aortic stenosis, then there's no point in really doing that. And therefore, in our company particularly, we've got a lot of really incredibly creative technical people in the medical side, on the engineering side, and their sole purpose is to bring something to market that's better than what's already there, not a me too. And in doing so, they're going to bring a solution that is more valuable for the physicians and certainly more valuable for the patients, particularly in our case, where we're bringing something very different. We're bringing a valve that actually brings these patients to a pre-disease state, which is not possible with the current products in the market. It doesn't bring you out of the disease. It just makes the symptoms a little bit better. And not only that, it's a valve that seems to be lasting a whole lot longer than what the current alternatives are, because of its novel 3D unibody design. So that innovation is really going to end up driving clinical benefits, patient benefits, and ultimately that will bring returns and rewards for shareholders as well.
And from the time you embarked on the journey to where you stand today, what do you believe has been the biggest achievement of Anteris?
So I was fortunate when I was sitting on the board. We had a technology that was being utilized in a different area to where we are now. It's a very good technology. It's a global technology. And frankly, most small companies aren't lucky enough to have this kind of big market technology. It's called ADAPT. And we were operating in a space worth about $50 million for surgical repair. Now, I believe the biggest achievement was when we divested some peripheral businesses and focused the company very much into the structural heart space. And we took a gamble on this, taking that one technology and turning it into 3 or 4 different technologies that would move the game forward in this particular space. And that gamble's paid off. So I'm really proud of the technology that we had. I'm proud that it's Australian. I'm proud of what the team has achieved. And we're now, we've gone through our animal work, we've implanted cadavers, we've gone through the whole process of bringing it to market. We've been in liaison with the FDA on our submissions. And so we're about to go to humans very, very shortly with this product. And we know what the results generally going to be because it's been so thoroughly tested. And I think that's just a massive achievement. Australia has some great healthcare companies, and I'm absolutely convinced that Anteris in the years ahead will be another one of those big, really good Australian healthcare stories.
Let's hope so. And just finally, Wayne, how do you envision the healthcare industry to innovate and expand in the upcoming years?
Yeah, look, as populations get older, and this is something I contemplated again in the pharmaceutical space where I worked prior to this. How do you deal with these aging populations? The shift in demographics is something that I think has been front and center to the healthcare discussions for many, many years. I started my career in Australia in the healthcare space, and Australia was in fact leading the world on discussions around health economics. So we're quite advanced down there and have been. And I think what's really happening is this shift away from hospital-based care where you can. Obviously, there's the necessity for hospital-based care for certain diseases. Has been accelerating over the years, and I think the innovation is really going to come from, having people being able to be treated in their homes, staying in their homes longer, having the elderly stay out of hospitals and nursing homes where possible through telemedicine and things we talked about before. But also the therapeutics are improving quite a lot. We're kind of, in some cases, shifting away from treating symptoms to actually presenting cures. which wasn't always the case with pharmacotherapy in the years 60s, 70s, and 80s. A lot of what we brought to market was simply to treat the symptom, which of course is important, but there weren't that many cures. And Anteris, I think, is a good example of that, where we're in a space where the product we bring to market could actually potentially be a functional cure for this disease, where there is not one at the moment. So you see a lot more of that, but I think the hospital in the home kind of setting is going to be the biggest shift that we see in the next decade or so, where it becomes really, truly viable that patients can actually be treated from the sanctity of their own lounge room.
Well, it sounds fabulous. Thank you so much for the formidable work that you are doing there, Wayne, and thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. And with that, I will sign off for now, but watch this space for more. Till then, stay apprised and invest wise with Kalkine.